Okay, do you want to get more out of every single run, every single training session that you do, but you don't know how? What if I told you that a simple tweak in the way that you warm up could transform your running? Whether it's intervals, threshold sessions, long runs, recovery runs, easy runs, all of it. Here's why your warm-up is probably wrong. I'm Grantham, a coach and professional ultra runner who went from running a marathon in 4 hours and 25 minutes to running a marathon in 2 hours and 21 minutes, and representing my country for both the marathon and ultra marathon. My first couple of years in running were pretty tough. It was difficult for me to move forward, but it was when I understood exactly the type of thing that I'm about to tell you and how that can be improved, which impacts all of your running. Most runners will either skip the warm-up entirely or just do a little bit of light jogging and then get straight into it. Some runners will even do too much, and therefore they get to the session and they're already experiencing fatigue, and so they cannot execute the session properly. Most runners either skip the warm-up entirely or do a little bit of jogging and then get straight into it. It might feel like it's enough, but it's not setting you up for success. A proper warm-up doesn't just get your muscles moving, it primes your body to get the absolute most out of the run ahead. The main reason people get the warm-up wrong is because they underappreciate it, or they don't have the respect for it because they don't fully understand how it impacts their running. If you look at a specific block of training of 13 weeks, that means that we're going to do a taper of 10 to 14 days. So let's say 2 weeks. That means 11 weeks of dedicated training specifically towards you getting faster and running a personal best on race day. What that typically looks like is we're going to do 11 faster sessions and 11 long runs. That's 22 runs in order for you to get the absolute most out of to run your fastest on race day. Now, a good warm-up before just those key sessions is not going to just improve the quality of those sessions, it's also going to give you consistency over the weeks and months. And let's be conservative. If a good warm-up done properly moves you forward for that session by 5%, absolute minimum it does, then imagine what that can do for your overall running. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly how I warm up before a faster interval session and how I adapt that slightly for a longer run, a specific long run. But before I get into that, these are 5 reasons why I don't miss the warm-up. Number 1, I factor it in and it takes no time at all. 10 to 15 minutes, I'm usually good to go. Number 2, it improves my consistency over the weeks, over the months, and over the training schedule and over the year. And imagine if that just keeps you from 1 injury per year, that extra 10 to 15 minutes per session, priming your body ready for the session, that's more than worth it just from a consistency point of view. Number 3, it enhances the quality of the session. It helps me get more super compensation, more improvement from those sessions. So let's say the session is 6 times a kilometer and I'm warming up properly to get ready for that. I'm going to get more out of those kilometer reps. I'm going to be able to run them faster and also be stronger and in control of that interval session. And again, imagine how that compounds when you add in that consistency over the weeks and months. Number 4, it accelerates and enhances my recovery. It might sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. Imagine how taking the right nutrition during your sessions improves your recovery because you're already restocking those glycogen supplies before they're depleted, and therefore the recovery is enhanced. It's exactly the same with a good warm-up. You're putting your body in a good position to run fast or far or any of your runs. It's going to help you maintain the focus throughout the session and recover fast too, because you're not shocking the muscles. They're ready to handle what you're giving them because the warm-up is designed for you to tackle that session or that run. Number 5, it builds confidence. Imagine you're going into a big session like 20 times 400 meters, a massive session, 20 times 400 meters with 60 seconds rest in between. That's character building. Imagine if you could get your warm-up to a point where that made the entire 20 reps, that entire big session, much more manageable physically, physiologically, but also psychologically too. That's exactly what the warm-up does when done properly. So here's my warm-up, and let's look at that 6 times a kilometer. That's the interval session that I'm preparing to warm up for. What would my warm-up look like? So it looks like, okay, the day before, what have I done? I've done an easy run, and I felt fresher at the end of that easy run, but the next day is the interval session. I know that that's a key session, if not the most important session, where I'm going to get the most super compensation, the most improvement towards the goal that I'm trying to hit. And so the warm-up is elevated in importance to the extent that some runners will only warm up before they're about to run quick. That should tell you quite a lot. So yesterday I did an easy run. Today I'm going to walk for 500 meters for 5 minutes. I'm just going to check the body out. How am I feeling? Do I feel that the Sunday long run has soaked in? Do I feel that I'm fully recovered for that and I'm ready to go fast? So it's a constant check, and I'm constantly asking myself throughout the warm-up and the session, how do I feel? And the often asked question is, what do you think about when you're running? When you're absolutely in the zone in an interval session, a specific long run, or a race, there's nothing else you're thinking about apart from how efficiently you're moving over the ground and how your body feels. So that's what I'm doing in those first 500 meters. And then that walk turns into a very, very light jog. And what I'm focused on there is, again, my body, is there any soreness or tightness? Do I need to stop and stretch? Do I need to stop and iron out any problems that there are at the moment? And then I'm thinking about my running style. Am I bringing my arms up high enough? I'm practicing my running style in the warm-up, because then that carries into the session. Whenever you're running, it's the perfect opportunity to practice running. As my body freshens up, I'll start to go a little bit faster, and that will come naturally with effort as I start to feel a bit fresher and I start to feel a bit more loose. Once I get to a point where I'm moving well over the ground and I'm feeling loose, then I'll do some dynamic stretching. And what I'm trying to do with that dynamic stretching is get my glutes firing, get the hamstrings turned on, get my calves turned on. Let the big power muscles know that they are going to be doing the work during this faster session, but I also need the calves to be robust. I also need them switched on, and I want the quads switched on as well. Now, by this point, you might be at the 8 to 10 minute mark, or even a little bit more. It's irrelevant. What's important is that we start to feel fresh, we're gradually lightly jogging, we're checking on the body, and then we're starting to accelerate after we've done dynamic stretching. You've got to be thinking at all points that I don't care whether this takes 8 minutes, 18 minutes, or 28 minutes. The main focus of this warm-up is to set me up for success for the interval session, so I can get as much improvement out of this interval session as possible. Now, for me, this is the point in the warm-up where it starts to get to the next level. It starts to get serious, because I want to prepare my body to run those first reps. So if that's 6 times 1 kilometer, I want to get to a point in this next section of the warm-up where I can run 2 times 500 meters at the effort level or at the pace that I'm going to execute those first couple of reps. The main point here is those 6 times a kilometer, I don't want anything for free. I want to be hitting those optimally and in control. And so this next part of the warm-up is setting me up to know what that effort level feels like and know what that pace feels like. And what that will look like is I gradually accelerate. I can feel the glutes firing. I can feel the hamstrings firing. I'm moving faster over the ground to a point when I'm ready to do those 2 times 50% rep lengths, or 2 times 500 meters. And by this point in the warm-up, you've got a good indication based on what you wanted to hit those splits at before the session, how the body's feeling, and that will give you an indication of what you can run these 2 times 500 meters at. But more important than that, it lets you know exactly how you are that day. Why is that important? Let's say you're aiming for a sub 20 minute 5K, and this session is 6 times a kilometer at 4 minutes per kilometer or faster. And then we've warmed up, we've done everything that we usually do, and we've got used to this habit by now. And then we execute the 2 times 500 meters, but we cannot hit 4 minutes per kilometer. And let's say we're hitting 4:10 or 4:15 per kilometer, so nearly, but not there. What you could also do is understand that training doesn't work like that. And therefore, we're not just going to be able to go out and do 6 times a kilometer in 4 minutes because life got in the way. Maybe your sleep wasn't perfect in the last week. Maybe you had commitments at work or with your family. And so what can we do today in this session to get a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10? If that is 6 times a kilometer in 4:15 per kilometer, Brilliant. Imagine how those wins and that level of self-awareness over the period of 13 weeks and years, imagine how that compounds. If you're able to get to a point in the warm-up, and this is why the warm-up is so important, if you're able to get to a point where you're doing 2 times 50% of the rep, and if it's a longer rep, I'd go up to 2 times 2 minutes. If you're able to get to a point where you're self-aware enough to back off or do a little bit less or maybe cut down the reps or the pace, you're becoming a great trainer, which makes a great runner. And equally, it can work the other way, and it will work the other way because of the type of character that you are. You're gonna try to steal that fitness if it's there for you. So if you go out in those first 500 meter reps and you're able to do 2 times 500 meters at 350 or 345 per kilometer, guess what's gonna be your pace for the 6 times 1 kilometer? Imagine having access to something that improves the quality of every single run you do. Imagine having access to something that will build confidence before you do that run or you do that session. Imagine something that can help you with consistency over the weeks and months. And at the same time, it's going to speed up your recovery and it takes very little time to do. Imagine having access to all that and maybe you're doing it, but you're doing it slightly wrong. And if you just flip one switch to one side, all of a sudden, you're a better runner. That's exactly what the warm-up is all about when executed properly. Look at any marathon, any race. Look who's doing the warm-up without fail and will not run without the warm-up. And look what runners are not doing a warm-up at all. And if you are looking to hit that sub 20-minute 5K, click on this video here.